And we're live. Hello, Rachel. How are you? And I
I
want
am
to
wonderful. Hi.
good, and I want to welcome everybody, of course, in the chat. This is really a special night for me to be able to sit down with my tarot hero, Rachel, once again for the second time. Is really an honor, but to be able to speak about a book that literally changed my life is an even bigger honor. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming back on, and thank you everybody in the chat. Let's just say hello to everybody in the chat. Rachel and I have been talking for about 10 minutes, so
Mhm.
we've already exchanged our hellos, but I just want to welcome everybody. So we got Jessie, Driscoll
Yay, hi Jessie.
in the chat. We have my sister Mendy, the Artistry of Tarot,
Mhm.
Little Zen Crone, Jilly. Hello, Jilly.
Mhm.
And let's see. We have Toadstool Tarot, Jackie Jacaranda. Hello, Jackie.
Great name, great people.
Um, Zoe Madoff.
Hi Zoe.
Hello, Zoe. We have Tarot's Dash here. How are you, Gerald?
Mhm.
And let's see. Musings by Masha, Blue Crescent, Deanne. And let's see. I can't tell how many people are in the chat, but it keeps
Okay.
growing and growing. So I just want to give a general hello to everybody. I'm not going to be able to name everybody, but I thank you for coming, and a special thanks to my moderators also. If you can help us out, if anybody has any questions in the course of this, I would encourage people to save the questions for the portion sort of towards the end of the interview. You can ask questions if it's sort of pertaining, I guess, to what we're talking about, and I'll try to get to them. Of course, if I don't, I apologize. It's not intentional. It's just the chat may be moving and I may not see it. So I'm going to do my best to see all the questions and get to them. And I, again, thank my mods. And thank you so much again, Rachel, for coming. This is so exciting. I'm really
Oh,
happy to be
me
able to do
too.
this again.
Yeah,
So
I'm looking forward to it all week, so it's really great.
good. Very good. So, it's funny. I was trying to sort of think of questions to ask you, and I was the first thing I sort of thought of was like, when you hear things like, so we're obviously here to talk about 78 Degrees of Wisdom. That is the book, and we'll obviously talk about some other things as well. But when you hear things like the Bible of Tarot,
Mm.
and the greatest book ever written on tarot, um, you know, a book that inspired a generation of people to tarot. I mean, these are things that you see when you research 78 Degrees of Wisdom. And I just wonder how that makes you feel now, 40 years after
So he's
writing the book.
laughing. No, it makes me feel wonderful.
So,
It's very thrilling. That phrase, the Bible of tarot readers, it wasn't like one person said that and then a bunch of people copied it. I just a lot of people have said it,
yeah,
around the world. It's an amazing thing that people use that expression, but no, it's an amazing, wonderful thing. To write something that has had such an impact on people and on my favorite subject.
yeah,
It's not like I did something that was interesting that other people really responded to. This is a subject that was very close to my heart. And I
yeah,
feel very strongly about. So it's really great that it's had that impact.
yeah. I think for me too, it's very much. I like the way it's sort of compared to the Bible because it sort of reads like that for me. Like it's packed with so many nuggets of information that you couldn't possibly memorize it all reading it the first time. I mean, I've
Mm.
been reading the book probably for 8 years, and every time I pick it up, I learn something new. It's just packed with information. It's kind of like the Bible in a way, because
You know,
that's how you read the Bible.
what's really interesting is that a lot of people, because it's a terrible, terrible books are read differently than other books. I did a book recently, and the editor said, "Well, you kind of repeat yourself in different cards." I said, "Well, yes, because people don't read a tarot book cover to cover.
It's
You
true.
know, they may read the Chariot, but never having read the Lovers. So if I compare the Chariot to the card just before it, they won't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Um, because people jump around. But I've seen people, with their books falling apart because they've read it so many times. And at the same time, a card may come up in a reading I'm doing for them, and they'll go, "Oh, I don't know that card. That's never come up before." So they
Yeah.
never read it. They never read about it or studied it. So they one time read the whole book, but they didn't retain, every card.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've definitely read this book cover to cover, probably more than once, and I listen to it now, of course. Uh,
Mhm.
too. And we'll get to that
I'll
sort of.
tell you one more story. So one person, this is a great story. So this was a woman that I knew when I lived in Amsterdam. Wonderful woman. Her name was Astor, which means star. And she had had an accident on a plane with air pressure. And so it left her unable to read for periods of time without getting terrible headaches. But being an indomitable kind of person, she sort of bullied medical school into letting her go to medical school and have people read her things so she could memorize it
Yeah.
rather than her having to read it and have get tests orally instead of on paper. And then she bullied them to let her only study half the year because that was all her brain condition could manage. And then she would go to Mykonos the other half of the year and read tarot cards on the beach.
Well,
For herself and her income for medical school. And then I went to see her one time. So remember, she couldn't read very much, right? But her copy of Semantic Degrees of Wisdom was in tatters. It was
yeah.
falling to pieces because that she read so much.
Yeah. I actually cover mine in clear contact paper,
Mm,
and this is the first copy that I ever got.
hmm
This I actually walked into a little witch shop in South Jersey. It's Collingswood, New Jersey, which is right over the bridge from Philadelphia.
Okay.
And my partner and I would go on these little trips looking for, we love shops. We love cool stores. And at the time I had just getting back into tarot from when I was 12 years old. I picked up my first deck and so I walked into the store and I had an introductory level book by Susan Levitt, I believe, that I was reading
Yeah.
at the time, and it was a great book. It did both, yeah, it did both Thoth and Rider-Waite-Smith,
Yeah.
but I was looking for something a little more intermediate, something a little more like to get me going. The introductory book was great for that, but I wanted to go deeper. And the woman in the store handed me this little purple book and she said, "This is the best book on tarot that you'll ever read." That's literally what she said.
Wow.
And I took it home and it sat probably on the shelf for a month. And then one day I picked it up and I started reading it. And I remember the first night I read it, I was up almost the whole night reading it.
Wow.
And I was just so, it's like that feeling you get when you have a crush on a professor. You know what I mean? Like you're just so into what the person is saying that you just get that feeling. It's like, and that's how I felt about you. And
Oh,
I never had picked up a book, a
mm,
tarot book like that before,
mm,
and it really sparked it. There were several things, it's like I had you, tarot was just sort of a curiosity at that time,
yeah.
but it was like that book kind of made me realize that, there were really intelligent people who studied tarot that,
Mhm.
um, you know,
Yeah.
did took it very seriously. It wasn't all woo and it is that, and I love the woo parts, and I'm not knocking the woo parts because I'm totally woo, but it was also very serious, and it was dealing with these very deep things that are just very deeply spiritual and meaningful. And I just can't tell you enough. So I've never formally thanked you for that. So I want to thank here and now. I want to thank you for you are responsible for my tarot obsession in a very almost direct way, actually.
I'm very happy because you're such a wonderful figure. And I was saying to Zoe before how I really like the interview with you because you know so much more than I do about all sorts of things.
Oh no, I
Well,
don't think that's true at
you know
all.
about Oracle decks more than I do.
Maybe Dex.
Like
Yeah, I don't.
you this Picard you were recently featuring. I never heard of it. Zoe knew it, but I never heard of it. And stuff like that. So I really have great respect for what you do, and I think it's really wonderful to be sharing it.
Thank you so much for that, Rachel. I don't know if any of that's true, but thank you so much for that. You're my absolute tarot hero. So, but I was trying to figure out what it is about your book that's so great. I was, for me personally, meaningful. And I was trying to sort of establish like, what is it about 78 Degrees of Wisdom that struck a nerve with people. And so, of course, I decided to draw 3 cards. So I hope that's okay.
Good.
So I drew 3 tarot cards, and I just wanted to, and we can, of course, talk about the cards. But
Wow. Oh my gosh.
yeah, so we got the
Beautiful
Death,
cards. Yeah.
we got 2 of Cups, and
Holy
I hope they're
cow.
not. Are they backwards? Are you
No,
seeing
no.
these? Okay, so good. So because sometimes it reverses it on my
That's
end.
on the left, and what I'm seeing,
Okay, it's on the left. Good, good, good.
which I like actually. It actually makes sense.
Yes,
Yeah, the
death, two
death
of
is
cups.
approaching the Two of Cups, and the Six of Swords is leaving the Two of Cups.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I thought, and of course, I want to hear your input about this.
Mhm.
You know what I mean, if you don't mind. But I just thought, like, so the death card for me was like, we're in this period. First of all, you were born in the middle of the century. You are a baby boomer.
Mhm.
You came out up at
Hey,
a time.
technically, I'm just before baby boomers
Oh, really? Oh,
because
okay. So
baby boomers are
1945.
technically after the end of the war. I was born just before the end of the war, so technically, it's not exactly the same.
Oh, really?
And
That's
there are
interesting.
differences. Like when
Okay.
I was in college, it wasn't until I was a senior that I found out about pot and things like that. So yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
go on. Yeah.
Well, I just thought, you came up at around a time of a great change. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's
Yeah.
like, and I think also organized religion to some extent was sort of starting to kind of maybe break down a little bit. People were looking to other things for spirituality,
Mhm.
and so that's what I thought. I thought, and the tarot books, the occult books that were written in that time, I feel like were very scary, kind of like the death card, in a way. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
they were very serious, very similar to organized religion in a way. They were just very, exclusionary and so forth. And then you came along with the Two of Cups, and I feel like you presented it in a way that wasn't intimidating, that wasn't you didn't talk over anybody.
Mhm.
You sort of connected with the audience in a way that only a fiction writer
Mhm.
could connect, like, so, like a great writer. And and then the Six of Swords, of course, is heading in a different direction, you know
Mhm.
so again, I feel like I'm playing the piano for Elton John again, but I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on these cards.
Well, that's a really powerful reading. A couple of things about it. So, first of all, that Six of Swords card is the card that started me in a way and got me into tarot. Because the story about someone did a reading for me. I won't go into the whole story. Um, and I didn't know the cards. I knew of them vaguely through T.S. Eliot and The Wasteland. They're mentioned there, but not much else. Um, and she did a reading for me, and I don't remember the reading, but I remember how the cards fascinated me. And the Six of Swords is the one card I remember because it was so mysterious. Who are these people? Where are they going? Why are they so subdued? Why is everything quiet? Why are they carrying the swords? And it was clearly like a lot happened before this and a lot will happen after it, but this is the moment. And I felt the whole deck was like that. Um, it actually reminded me in the best possible way of a comic book or a graphic novel, like a single frame from a graphic novel. And the whole story is before, the whole story is after, but this is what you have. And every card's like that,
Yeah.
especially the minor arcana. Um, and so that's one aspect of it. But the other aspect of it is um, one way you can interpret the Six of Swords, this came to be much later, is they're dead. It's the journey of dead souls. And the man with the pole is Charon, who ferries the souls across the river. So there's the death card on one side, and there's the journey of the dead on the other side. So in between is the Two of Cups, which is so to me, I'm not going to attempt a quick response to this because I think it's mysterious. I think it's very
Yeah.
deep. This reading,
Yes.
it's something to very seriously ponder.
Yeah.
I think it's really fascinating, and yet in the Two of Cups, of course, you have coming out of the Two Cups, the Caduceus, and above that, the alchemical red lion.
I know that's so.
And
The Caduceus made me think of you because I even wore my Hermes pin today for you.
oh, I'm wearing a snake necklace, as you can see it.
Excellent.
Isn't that cool?
I
So,
love your necklaces.
so another great story. The Two of Cups is really great. So I'm in Denver, Colorado, for a back then there was a American Tarot Association, I guess it was, and they were doing small regional conferences, and so I was at this one in Denver, right? It was in a small little place called the Red Lion Motel or something like that. It was a chain. And we're there, and at one point we are doing a reading, and the strange thing is that I don't know how this happened, but I was listening and I knew we were supposed to be reading, and yet the questions in my mind were different than what the person said we should be asking. I have no idea why. You know, it wasn't like I didn't hear. It was like my brain just said, "No, we're going to do these questions instead." And so one of the questions was that I thought we were supposed to be asking. Well, maybe it was even like the only question was, "Where am I now in my tarot journey?" This is the question I thought. And the card that came up was Two of Cups. So I immediately started thinking, okay, I'm joining different sides together. I'm trying to, bring different kinds of energy. The um, the image of the young man holding out the hand and the woman receiving it, and so forth.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I thought, no, 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 no. The tarot is saying to me, "What do you mean? Where are you, stupid? You're in the Red Lion Inn. Wake up!"
The red line. That's good. That's really good.
I love when the tarot like answers you in this literal way, and you start doing it all metaphoric.
Yeah.
And you really have to go, "Oh wait a minute, no."
Sometimes it is quite literal, you know?
Here you are, dummy. You're the Red Lion Inn. Wake up.
That's pretty funny, actually. And it's like spelled out right on the card, too. That's great.
Yeah. I think that was the one in which we were sharing the hotel convention rooms with a Scrabble tournament. Which I thought was kind of cool. So when it
Yeah.
was my turn to do a presentation, I decided to do a Scrabble spread in which you had to do a card and then match it with another card. And
That's
then
so
match
that's
that
so
card with
interesting.
another card. And you end up like getting a Scrabble kind of shape. I've only
Yeah.
done that one time. I should try it again. It was an interesting thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I love to play like little games. I don't do spreads much anymore. I really do so on a day-to-day basis. I do more 3 card draws now.
I do that a lot too. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to do more, like the Celtic Cross, for instance, which
I
you
do
have
that.
a really great Celtic
Yeah,
Cross,
I
you
do that
know.
fairly often. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, so you still do the Celtic Cross the way
Oh,
you
a
did
lot.
in 78
Yeah.
Degrees of Wisdom? That's interesting.
It's a bit different. Yeah. It's evolved somewhat,
Okay.
and but it's still pretty similar. And I will most of what I do when I do readings for people, I do three things. One is I do their birth card tree of life, in which you have like the lower number at the top, the higher number at the bottom, and you fill the 8 spaces between. There's always 8 spaces between the higher and lower numbers.
Yes.
I'm like 817. So I do that. I got that from David Shar, an Israeli tarotist, wonderful
Yeah.
man. But it actually comes originally from Walt Amberstone, the New York Tarot School.
Yeah.
I always give credit. It's really important to me to give credit.
Of course.
I do
No.
that. But then the other thing I do a lot is I ask people what their issues are, and I write down everything they say. So they may say something like, "Well, I've been doing tarot for 20 years. I write down doing tarot 20 years." They say, "And now I'm at an impasse. At an impasse." And so then I'll do cards for every those statements. I'll do 3 card spreads, as you said, for each one of those statements.
Yes.
And then maybe at the end we'll do a quick Celtic cross. So there's a whole bunch of things I'll do in a reading.
Yeah. It's interesting because, for me, when I'm doing readings for people, a lot of times getting them to ask questions or getting them to tell me what's going on is a
Yeah,
challenge.
yeah, yeah,
And I just wish more people, when I read for them, would come to me with like even statements, like you said, just write
yeah,
statements down. But a lot of times they just kind of want to see, and you talk about that all the time. We don't have to get into that, but how, there's always that element of them sort of testing the reader.
yeah.
It's like they want to go in and sort of see what kind of thing. And it's so annoying.
Right. Well, it's based on popular images of tarot readers
Yes.
that they're all fortune tellers and they all have psychic magical powers. So you don't, knows all, sees all, tells all. That's the famous phrase. You know,
Yes.
and they're also many of them are fakes. So you have to test them to see if they're genuine. And they don't get that a real genuine tarot reader doesn't do that stuff. Mostly, some people do, of course, But so you have to deal with that, and you have to let them know that. And there's various ways to do that. But sometimes I'll just confront that image,
Yeah.
and I'll say, well, it's we're not playing a game, and maybe I won't be that harsh, but I'll just But sometimes I'll do it, and what's interesting is there's at least a couple times when I really needed to let them do that because they had told me the question, they would not have believed the answer.
Yeah.
There was this woman, this is many years ago, and she said, "I don't have any questions. Can we just do it?" I said, "Okay." So I put the cards out. It's just because I used the Shining Tribe deck because I felt closer to that as my deck, and
Yeah.
all 10 cards for Celtic Cross to not give myself a lot of chances to see what the issues were. I looked at myself. Okay, now I'm going to say something really stupid. I thought to myself. I said to her, "Okay, this is may sound crazy, but is any chance of you becoming pregnant in the next 6 months?"
Oh yeah, I've heard this story before.
She
Yeah.
said, "Oh my God, that's what I came to find out."
Yeah, that's really good. That's great. Yeah, it's funny sometimes. Like you get those really synchronistic moments with tarot,
But it
and
wasn't. That's the point. You see, it's like if I wanted to play the game, I could have just r- rode on that whole idea of the great psychic. But I'm not like that. I just
no,
I can't do that. So I
no,
pointed out to her all the baby cards, all the cards that showed a baby or that showed a mother.
yeah,
And so I said, it was not really anything magical or psychic. It was just the cards.
yeah.
That's all you need.
No, I agree, and it's like learning how to read those cards, but like you point out in 78 Degrees of Wisdom, also seeing how the cards interact with each other, and that's really the great challenge for me. That's why I stopped doing such large spreads because I
Mm,
was like, I want to practice more with the smaller spreads because it's for me it's more manageable. It's easier for me to look at three cards and say, this is what's going on instead of looking at this great big
yeah.
spread that sometimes can confuse me.
What about one card? You ever do just one card?
Oh, I do a daily draw, and that's always great too. I do that day to day actually. I think for the most part, I usually do a daily draw, and I'll write it down on my little planner.
Yeah.
What card it was, and then I look back and see I actually got that from my friend Chris Kelly. He does that all the time, and he looks at like the cards over a month, and I was like, wow, that's a great idea. I should
Yeah.
try it out.
Here's
So
something you can do that is interesting to do. Is do a reading for a year. Do it maybe once a week, the same exact spread. Have a certain set of questions, and then just write them all down. And then as the year progresses, look over them and see recurring themes, see if like new ideas open up,
yeah,
and see how it ends too. I did this with I learned this idea that in Judaism there are some people say four souls, but usually three souls is the idea.
yeah,
And so during the week you have a physical soul, an animal soul that helps you, just deal with things, right? And also you have I think they call it the emotional soul. Um, and then that soul is to, engages you more on the level of your mind of what you're doing, right?
yes,
And then I think they call it the mental soul, but I call it the spiritual soul. And that comes to you on Friday night, tonight actually. If you're Jewish, you light the candles, and the Shekinah, the female aspect of God, and the divine spirit, the Holy Presence comes and brings you this extra soul, right? So that you can experience the Sabbath. And then it leaves and goes away on Saturday night. So it struck me, well, what's it doing the other 6 days? If this is my soul, what's going on? Is it just sleeping? Which I didn't
right,
believe, because why would my spirit soul not be active? So I did this reading. And on Friday night, the reading was, where does it come from? What has it done? How do we celebrate? So I don't remember the exact questions. Saturday night, I did it again. And those questions were, how do I say goodbye? What blessing does it give me? What do I give? Where will it go? Kind of. And I did that for a year. And it was so interesting to do that and see how it changed, how it developed. I still have those
yeah.
someplace.
Yes, that's why journaling's so important too. So it's just like writing this stuff down and keeping track of it.
Yeah.
I definitely have to do more. I've been doing a good job. I mostly just write on the calendar. But I need to. I bought a nice big journal. I need to use it more. I think for readings.
Do you have a good pen?
I it's weird. I'm not like you with the fountain pens. I know you love fountain pens. I My partner laughs at me, and he doesn't even like these pens. But Sharpie makes a pen. So
Okay.
I buy these by the pack because it writes so well. It's not a ballpoint pen. It's kind of like a sharp.
Yeah. Yeah. They're
It's
good.
kind of like a mini marker or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And when you're president, you can use them to change maps of hurricanes and
Yeah, yeah,
not
exactly.
name and big slashing up and down diagonal.
Right, exactly.
Always
Yeah,
show
the
you
Sharpie.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
You see this?
I can actually.
See what the image is?
I see a human body.
Well, it's the shining woman from my shining
Oh,
trident.
oh, okay. Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah.
So for my 70th birthday, I had this commission by an artist in Arizona. Anyway, his name is Sean Newton. He's a brilliant, brilliant tarot pen maker. And so it took months actually. He made this pen. I sent him this image. He engraved it, and it's like this wonderful thing to have.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't recognize it because usually I'm used to seeing it in a certain color on your
Yeah, of
deck, and then when with the white background, I had to look at it. I was like, at first I thought it was Da Vinci, the Da Vinci body.
course. I know what you mean. Yeah, that divine proportion thing. Yeah,
um,
it's actually similar. You're right. Yeah.
yeah, it's somewhat. And I
Card,
love your deck.
card.
I the
But,
book.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say the book for your deck is brilliant. It's one of your best books, I think. I really enjoyed that book. I got so much information out of it. And I've actually just I bought another copy of it to gift to a friend because I love your deck so
Thank
much.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I guess I had a couple of questions. I hope it's okay if we just shift just a little bit. I wanted to just so you got your first reading in 1970, which the famous story with the snowstorm,
Yep.
and which I love, and you tell that in the first time I interviewed you.
Mhm.
But and then you published, in my opinion, which is one of the greatest tarot books of the 20th century. I think, it's my opinion, and many other people think that. In 1980, you did that, the first volume. So
Yes.
you had a 10-year period there, where like it's a long time, but not really that long. And I wonder what you must have really been like a great student of tarot for that time. I mean, I would.
Well, I was just excited about the tarot. I wanted to do it. I'm always amazed when people say they get a deck and they feel they have to study a book and learn everything before they could do a reading. And I just do it.
True. Very
Look at
true.
a book and what the spread is, and just put it down and look what the questions are, and look up the card, and then
Yeah.
see what it tells you.
Very true.
Really. And at least that's me. Other people are different. I don't want to.
No, I agree with you. I like see the problem is I am very interested in the history of tarot, and I like to read tarot books. It's one of my
My,
favorite things to do, but I don't think it's necessary.
my point is, you shouldn't have to wait until you've done that.
Oh, true.
But if
Very
you
true.
are, that's what you do. That's what you do. I'm not going to criticize people. But for me, it was just I just jumped into it, and so
Yeah.
did my partner at the time, and we were both doing it. She's doing a book. I'm so excited by this that she's doing a book after all these years. Anyway, but so we were just doing it, right? I was learning stuff as I went along, and I started picking stuff up. I started. I remember so vividly, very early on, having a poet friend come over. I was teaching at a college, and so he was a teacher also, and we went through every card, and we started seeing stuff that was not officially there.
Yeah.
And the one that really got me was in the Ten of Pentacles, was
Yes.
the old man outside the gate, and the dogs, the only ones who see him. It's like Odysseus. He comes home disguised as a beggar, the
Yeah.
old guy, old beggar, and only his dog recognizes him. So
Yeah.
that clued me in to there's a lot more going on in there than maybe were deliberately put there. Then,
Absolutely.
then I learned much later there's a lot more going on that you don't see that was
True.
deliberately put there. Like the tree of life is everywhere in the minor arcana. You
Yes.
don't know it, but it's there until you have to really look closer. But anyway, so I was doing that, right? Doing meetings for friends. And then I was on vacation and at a beach house with a friend, and she knew I was there. She was interested in this. So she said, "Will you teach me the tarot?" I said, "Okay, well." So we spent a couple of days, most of the weekend, down on the beach, going through the cards one by one and looking at readings. And so after I thought, okay, I have something to say. I realized, I know this stuff. I have something to contribute, right? Not too long after that, I needed a job. I lost my job. I had a great writer job, which was cleaning a bar once a day. You work for 2 hours and then you're free for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Writers always have these bios, all these exotic jobs. And I was
Yes.
thinking, oh, this is great. They get these jobs for your experience. So then it was, no, they get these jobs to live
Yeah.
before their books are selling.
It's very true. It's not easy to be an artist. It's really
No,
not.
anyway, so I thought, what do I do? I was living in Amsterdam, right? Okay, I'll teach English. I thought I was filling out the form for teaching English, and I thought not too good for this. I'm more educated, in this. So what do I do? I said, okay, I'll teach tarot. That was my response to being, too educated to teach English. So let's teach tarot cards.
Yeah. That's
So I went to the center, and I auditioned. I had to show them what I knew, and they clearly got that I was doing something different than other people were doing.
yeah.
The head of the center actually was, I didn't know that, I would never have gone if I knew this, was a renowned tarotist in Europe.
Yeah.
He was at the time one of Europe's most famous tarot, but he was an occultist. He was Aleister Crowley person.
Yes.
And he got that I was doing something very different.
Yeah.
And I was, because I was doing the tarot really seriously, but basing it on readings, not on
Yes.
occult systems.
Yeah, that was actually something I was going to ask you, Val. Go ahead,
Yeah.
continue. Please
So
continue.
I teach, right? And then to teach, of course, I had to go more deeply into every card. So I got a notebook. This is something I recommend to people to learn. You get a notebook and you write a card title down, and then you write down everything you know at this moment about that card, all your personal knowledge of it. Then you leave several pages blank. Goes next card. So the point is that you have room to add new stuff as you go along.
Yeah.
You're reading, Two of Cups come in. Okay, you add that to your Two of Cups page. So I did that for a while, and then I've been a writer most of my life. But I didn't sell anything until the same year that I, found the tarot. I moved to Europe, and I came out, and everything happened this one year. My life changed completely. Also, I sold my first story that year, but it took a while.
What year was that again? I'm sorry.
1970, 71.
70s. Okay.
Yeah, and spring of 70 to spring of 71,
Okay.
and began with tarot, ended with my going to Europe. It
Yeah.
was an amazing year, and so so I thought, well, I was trying to sell it. I hadn't sold any books. I tried one or two novels. So I thought, well, maybe I should do a tarot book instead of trying to sell novels all the time. And I was in Amsterdam, and I would always send my stuff out to publishers in America or England. But well, I'm here. Maybe I should try to find a publisher in Holland for a tarot book. And I went to this bookstore I knew. I used to hang out there. It was a cult bookstore, a wonderful place. Scores was the name of the family who had it. And I said to the man there, a young American guy, Warren, and I said to him, I'm interested in writing a book about tarot. And I thought maybe I should try to publish it here, and it could be translated into Dutch. And I said, any Dutch publishers that might be a good place to go? And he said, well, we might want to do it. And they've been publishing reprints of long out of print obscure books, but they decided to do new books. And so they published the first part, usually with two parts of 78 Degrees of Wisdom. They published it, licensed it to an English publisher, then the English publisher, the second part, and licensed it to the Dutch publisher, and then years later it became the one you have, the one-volume edition, 1997. And now, of course, it's a new edition as well.
Yes, I actually got, of course, that's my first book, and it's very special to me because it was my first book.
Yeah.
But I just got the hardbound copy as well, which I didn't even know existed. I was looking.
Very new, actually.
Yeah, I was so happy. I was like, oh, it's hardbound. I have to get this. So
let
me get it. You know what I mean? And I'm so happy I did get it because it's just even as a collector's item, I just wanted to have it. You know what I mean?
Is that one? That's not one of the signed ones, then?
I don't think so. No.
Bunch of them. I forget how many, like 50, maybe more. Where they send what's called book plays, little things that you sign and they stick it in the book. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so hopefully one day maybe I'll get to see you and get it signed.
Yeah. Make sure you bring it next time we
Definitely.
meet. Yeah.
Absolutely. For sure. So yeah, I was just very curious about that period because I hear you talk a lot about your first. Obviously, I'm sure you answered that question so many times about your first tarot experience with the snowstorm, and I hear you talk about sort of after the book. But I was curious about that period in between, and you definitely addressed it. That was interesting. So
one more thing about that. Again, it's like my life. These clusters, So 7 Degrees of Wisdom Part 1 came out in summer of 1980, and my first novel came out at almost the exact same time.
Yeah, what was the name of the first one?
Golden Vanity.
Okay, Golden Vanity.
It disappeared without a trace, pretty much.
Okay.
And but 7 Degrees of Wisdom, of course, has been in print ever since. It has never been out of print in those 40 years.
Yeah, I don't think it ever will be either.
Isn't that amazing?
Not anytime soon, no. Yeah, I was just trying to get the sense of like how you view it, like because I was watching this interview with Paul McCartney one time, and he was talking about the Beatlemania.
Yeah,
and I forget. Oh, you know who it was? It was Ron Howard was interviewing him, and he said to me, he said in the interview, it's almost like that person was another person. Like when he views himself as a
Mhm.
younger kind of the young Paul in the Beatles, he thinks of himself almost
Yeah.
as like, so long ago. Now he's like
Mhm.
older. He's got a
Mhm.
family. It's just so, totally different. Do you ever feel like anything like that? Like do you sort of like remember the whole process, or is this like it's kind of like something you have to kind of remind yourself of over time? And
No, actually, no. I don't feel like it was a different kind of life. I feel like it was the seeds, and my life
yeah,
grew from those seeds. I feel very connected to that period of time. So only recently, though, that I realized everything happened in 1 year.
yeah,
All those amazing things. I'm writing a kind of memoir, autobiography about. It's called "And on the Way, I Told a Tale," and then the subtitle is "My Life in Tarot, Storytelling, and Magic."
I'm so excited for that. I
I
really,
just started thinking of all those things coming together in this kind of amazing way.
yeah.
You know,
S-
but no, I definitely see it as a continuum. And
Yeah, I mean, because you have been in tarot, you've been working in tarot continuously, but I just wonder because it's a long time. It probably doesn't seem as long though. Like 40 years to me seems. I mean, that's my entire lifespan. So seems it seems like a long time to me. But time flies, right? And
what year were you born? Can I ask?
1982.
Okay, so you were born 2 years after 78 Degrees of Wisdom was born.
Yeah, Stephen was born the summer of 1980.
Oh, you're wonderful! Wow.
And that's when your book was published.
Yeah, I
So it's like
know.
my
Yeah.
my two favorite things are both Leos.
Summer
Out of
'98. That's really great. Wow. And I'm a
yeah,
Leo too.
I
August
know,
5th.
I know you, and Zoe is too, isn't she? Is
Yeah,
Zoe a Leo too?
yeah,
Yeah,
August 5th. Yeah.
that's interesting. Yeah, I have all these Leos around me. I have all these cats around me. It's like, yeah, and I'm the fish here. I'm the Pisces. Like I'm lunch basically. It's Steven anyway.
Do
Um,
you know the story of the Queen of Wands? Have I told that story before to you? And then when I was teaching the class and going card by card and the film crew?
no, the Queen of Wands. No.
Yeah, this is a great story. So when I was teaching at this place called the Cosmos Meditation Center, it's like 3 stories. It's a really great place. They had a cafe and stuff. Anyway, and I guess they had a bookstore. Anyway, so I'm teaching, and one week I go in, and there's an Italian film crew, and they were doing a video for Italian station about this place, right? And so they were asking permission of everybody. They say, "Can we come and film a bit of your class?" I said, "Sure, why not? Yeah." And so anyway, so I forget about them, and then I'm just about to do the Queen of Wands. I was doing card by card in that class. We were all sitting on the floor because it was 1977 or hippie days. We always sat on the floor. And it's funny because when Mary and I first started Omega, we always sat on the floor. Certain point, that nah, people want to sit in chairs. We're getting older.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, um, so anyway, but so just as they were setting up and getting going, I finished one card. I guess it would have been Knight of Wands, and I put down the Queen of Wands, right? Which shows this woman sitting there, and she's got a black cat in front of her. And just almost exactly as I put it down, this black cat came running in from the kitchen and jumped in my lap.
Wow.
I was cool. I just sat there coolly. I was stroking the cat, and not saying anything. And I
Yeah.
said, I said, "And you notice the queen has a black cat in front of her." We talked about the black cat and how,
Yeah.
nature is responding to her, and it's a guardian, and it's also a witch kind of thing, and stuff like this. And then I finished that card, and as I as I finished it, I did reach to pick it up, but the cat jumped off my lap and ran back into the kitchen. You know.
Wow.
And so later on, I was telling someone from the Cosmos, one of the people on the staff, and he said, "Black cat?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "The black cat from the kitchen." I said, "Yeah." He said, "That cat's wild. It's a street cat. We won't let anyone touch it."
Feral. Yeah.
It came in for the Queen of Wands.
Wow.
I
That
also said,
that
oh, I also said, "Well, I'm the Queen of Wands." I said, my birthday. I played it up. I'm ham. I hammed
yeah,
it
but
up.
that's such a that I actually have a similar experience. One time in the very beginning of when I started taking tarot seriously, I rubbed my deck on my cat. and I said, I just want to see, if these things work, kind of thing. I pulled the card. It was the strength card. I couldn't believe it.
Ah!
I was
What
like,
did
oh,
you
but
write?
because I'm literally rubbing the cat with the deck. It was so
Oh my God.
symbolic. I was like, it blew my mind. I was like, oh my
That's
gosh. I
great.
was like, there's something to these things.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, it blew my mind. It really did.
Do you know the story of my dog Wonder and the Egyptian deck?
No,
This is,
I don't.
you know, the Book of Doors, this Egyptian deck is really fascinating. Never got enough attention. It's not a tarot deck, but
What is it called?
the Book of Doors. I think it's called that. I'm pretty
The
sure.
Book of Thoth or
Door, like a doorway.
Thor? Oh,
Door.
Door. Oh,
Yeah, door.
okay. I'm gonna write it down because
And I think that's the title. I haven't looked at it in quite a while. Anyway, I got this deck. I really liked it a lot, you know. And I'm excuse me, and I wrapped it in silk, and it had it out. It was in the back room of the house, and I get busy. I'm writing something about I was writing a book. I forget what book it was. I was writing about the idea of secrecy and the idea of um, that people are sworn to secrecy in the tarot, in the Golden Dawn. Everyone was sworn to secrecy, and how to me this was like kind of making a sort of it just seemed a little bit over dramatic to me.
yeah,
You know, you in the Golden Dawn apparently you would go down on one knee, and they'd place this heavy sword on your shoulder,
yeah,
and you would say that I vow, I ask, if I ever reveal these secrets to the outside world, I'd be struck down dead on the spot by God in such a way that no one will ever suspect anything.
yes,
You know, so I get it was really serious to them, and they were doing magic. It wasn't just scholarly, so I get that.
yeah.
But for me, my temperament, it was like, come on, Anyway, so I'm writing about this, right? And I get up from my writing, and I go in the back for some reason, and so the Wonder had taken the deck, wrapped in silk, had used her teeth or her paws to unwrap the entire deck. Didn't damage the silk, but just unwrapped the entire deck. She sorted through them, and she found a card. The goddess was the goddess of secrecy. And in fact, it was actually the goddess of oaths to keep a secret. Exactly what I'd been writing about and somewhat scornfully.
Wow.
Okay, this is not good. It's like I'm trespassing. My arrogance is
Yes.
putting me into some dangerous territory. I'm not
Yeah.
respecting this.
No, absolutely.
And so I kind of freaked out a bit. And then I went back. I sat down. I thought, oh, wait a second now. Um, my dog is a Wonder. Wonder chewed up secrecy. So it didn't exist anymore. So the idea of wonder and awe was what gives us permission to go beyond secrecy.
That's so deep.
Isn't it incredible?
That's typical Rachel.
And it's like,
That's a typical Rachelism.
and the other thing is that's the magic part of storytelling, tarot, and magic, or tarot storytelling and magic. But then the other thing is that my dog never did anything like that before or since. My dog never showed any interest in tarot cards. They never tried to
Yeah.
unwrap anything. Cats love tarot readings. I don't know if you've
Oh no, I
climb them,
know
they sit on them. Isn't it fascinating?
all the time, all the time.
Wonder never showed any interest whatsoever in tarot cards before or after that, or any other kind of cards.
They only want to come to me when I'm like making a video. I'm doing like then they jump up. I have the camera set up. I'm like looking, making a video, tarot video. They
Yeah.
jump up and just demand my attention, and they lay right on the cards. It's like,
I love that about cats. It's just
oh
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love cats in general. They're really. Are you
Yeah.
more of a dog person or more of a cat person? Just wondering.
I'm more of a dog person, but I think cats are wonderful. I just
Yeah.
in my life.
Yeah, usually you're like one or the other, but see, for me, I
That's
was a
not
dog.
both. It's always both, totally.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I love both
Yeah.
extremely, but because growing up, I was always a dog person.
Yeah.
And I always wanted a dog. And I think there's something about, like a boy and his dog, like I always wanted the dog. I had the dog, and it was like, when I got the dog, it was like the happiest day of my life. And, when I lost the dog, it was one of the saddest.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I moved in with Steven, Steven wasn't keen on getting a dog, and we weren't sure about the landlord at the time. So I went into the store. It was a PetSmart. They also adopted these cats, and I saw this sign on the window with this one cat. It was in the biggest sort of cubby
Mm.
where they keep the cats, and it said, "I've been here for 6 months.
Oh.
I need to find a home. This is my last chance," kind of thing.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And she looked like the cat that I had, every cat that I had growing up.
Mm.
She was a black and white tuxedo, and I
Mhm.
decided then and there I was going to bring her home. Her name was Gaga, and she passed away
Oh,
since.
come on,
But
Lady Gaga.
that's exactly what her name is, and we have that on her. I have her cremated over there in
Oh
the
my
box,
God.
and it
Yeah.
says Lady Gaga on it. But
That is
we
so
just
sweet.
called her Gaga. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So ever since then, I've just sort of been like a cat person. Now we have three.
Mhm.
I love
I'm
them.
allergic to cats, so one is my limit, and especially if it's going to be shedding a lot in hair, it's really bad for me.
Yeah.
So Zoe's cat, I was always okay with, you know.
She a long
Um,
hair cat or
she's also gone like Wonder. Both of them are gone from us,
oh,
unfortunately. But she was like, neither long nor short, mostly more short hair than long, but
okay.
didn't shed a lot of hair. But she definitely wasn't, it
I
was like,
find that the long hair cats don't shed as much for some reason.
oh, really? Oh, I would think they
Yeah,
would.
it seems like that. My long hair cat anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
She's just like a ball of fur. You know what I mean? She she's got this, and she knows she's pretty too. It's funny. She's such a funny cat.
Hmm.
But yeah. Um. So let's see. What else did I want to ask you? Because there was a couple other things here. Um. So let's talk about the audiobook. So, you know,
Yeah,
it's so now we have 40 years after we have, the opportunity now to listen to your book, which is really I've personally have been enjoying it. And I wonder what the process was that like about the decision, and also maybe finding the was it a challenge to find the right person to read it since you
I
weren't
didn't do
narrating
that.
it yourself?
That wasn't my job at all. Um,
Okay,
I was very happy with the person they found. I
good.
really enjoying it, but I haven't listened to too much of it yet. Um, well, basically, it was mostly just Audible. They just approached me. One of the editors is one of a tarot friend. She comes to Omega, so that was nice, a connection. But they just were really gung ho to do it. They had done two of my novels years back. Um, they were my mind's blanking now. Um, yeah, Temper Agency, and Godmother Night.
Oh,
Godmother Night I liked, but Temper Agency, that woman is the best reader I've ever heard.
okay. Oh, I
She,
didn't
her,
know Godmother Night was on audio. I'm gonna have to
yeah,
download that
yeah,
too because I have
audible.com. Yeah, I think it's, I'm
yeah
sure the book's still available.
I have a monthly subscription, so I just get them like whenever you know what I mean. Like I could just download it.
So anyway, so they just said they want to do this, and we made it happen, and I just think it's terrific. I'm just so happy with it.
Yeah, it's real. So for me, it's like I was curious if it would sort of if someone was listening to 78 Degrees of Wisdom as opposed to reading it for the first time, like if it would be different, sort of hearing the information instead of reading it. But
Well,
personally,
yeah,
well,
go
go
on.
ahead. Well, I know I was going to say personally, I like doing both. I actually had the
Yeah,
book out
yeah.
and I was listening to it and I was flipping through as she was reading and I could really focus on the pictures,
Mm-hmm.
like the pictures of the deck and all of
That's
the illustrations and
yes,
just
I see what you're saying. Yes, yeah. You
yeah.
yeah, you don't have to stop read the text. You can stay with the picture entirely and have the text read to you. I like that idea. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can relax while you're doing it. It's not as demanding.
Yeah. I listen to books on audio a lot in the car, usually when I'm driving, and those people are just incredible.
Yeah.
What they're able to do. I mean, someone said to me, "Are you going to read it yourself?" I said, "Oh God, no, I wouldn't read it myself." I mean, these people are
Yeah.
high professionals.
Yes. No,
Uh,
I agree. I would have loved if you read it. I would have loved for it to been on in your voice.
Yeah.
But in the same sense, I understand. Of course, it's like that's not your job, and I probably would
Well,
have done the same as you.
I mean, I did this thing recently with Susan Chang, who's an amazing woman. She does tarot. She does translations of the Greek hymns, and she performs the Greek Orphic hymns. So we did this thing of my magician poem from this book of tarot poems I did called Fortune's Lover. And so I did the part of the poem that's me writing to baby Hermes from the Homeric hymn to Hermes. And she did the Emerald Tablet from, Hermes Trismegistus, right? And it was great. But she's trained in this, so she's just experience. And I would think I'd done a great job. and I would listen back to what I'd done and realize all these places my voice just went flat, or lost the energy. It's really not an easy thing to do at all to do a good reading, dramatic reading of a text. It's really
Yes,
difficult.
it is. No, I listen to these ASMR videos at night a lot of times,
Oh,
and a
well,
lot of times it's like
yeah.
somebody whispering. Like, and I last night, synchronistically, what came on was the story, the Odyssey, and
Wow.
I was like, I thought to myself, I was like, I knew Rachel was going to talk about the Odyssey today, in the the Ten of Pentacles, because she, that's your story,
Oh, this is a great moment.
But
Yeah.
I was listening to, of course, it helped me fall asleep, because he's sort of like, it's real soft voice, and I like this one particular guy who does it. He's this really good voice, and he does all sorts of very knowledgeable videos about like all sorts of things, scientific. He reads science fiction. The history of witchcraft was one of them,
Wow, that's
which
great.
and so it's so great to fall asleep to.
Does it keep you awake listening to it?
Sometimes if it's
I
too
wouldn't want to
interesting,
fall asleep, but I'd want to listen to it.
yeah, sometimes it has the reverse effect. It does. So I'll have to change it. I'll have to put something else on. Like
Yeah.
if it's too interesting of a topic, it will get me.
Have you seen the Jungle Girl videos about that? You know who the Jungle Girls are?
No, the
Oh,
Jungle
they're
Girls.
hilarious. They're these two women, I don't know if they're friends or sisters, whatever. And and they do these like they do tarot card readings, and they're always bickering. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you a link or look at
Oh,
it.
if you would, I appreciate it. I did write it down though.
But they do have
That's
a whole
interesting.
string of ASMR videos, and
Okay.
they're always squabbling. They're grabbing the mic from each other, complaining about each other. They're very, very funny. They're not meant to be seriously ASMR
Yeah, yeah. I
parodies.
find it a lot of times happens. Like there are things that are titled ASMR that really aren't. But I kind of like that, because sometimes it's just like fun to explore.
Yeah.
That reminds me of something. So there's a video, and I can't remember the name of it, and I will send it to you. But it's a reenactment of sort of like the Fool's Journey, but it's very theatrical and very beautiful.
Oh,
And
nice.
I want to read something from your book, because it made me think of this, and I wondered. I'll actually put it in the link of this video. I'll put it down below. You know what I mean? So you guys can come back and watch it after this processes. But
Okay.
this is my very favorite line in 78 Degrees of Wisdom. I think this really captures, uh, what's
Wow.
beautiful about this book. So imagine yourself entering a strange landscape, a world of magicians, of people hanging upside down, and of dancers in the bright air. You can enter through a leap from a height, through a dark cave, a labyrinth, or even by climbing down a rabbit hole, chasing a Victorian rabbit with a pocket watch.
Mm-hmm.
Whichever way you choose, you are a fool to do it.
Thank
I love that line. I think that's just brilliant.
you. Thank you very much.
And it really kind of sort of just it's evidence of what was great about this book. Is like you are a true writer, and you brought that to the tarot, and that's what was great about your book.
Mm.
But the video, I feel like, was inspired by that, because when I heard that line, I was like, oh, and when I saw the video, I was like, it just seems so familiar to me, and then I put it together, and it was like a reenactment of sort of going into this mystical place with, the person meets the hangman's sort of hanging, and
Yeah.
the magician, and it's really beautiful. Does anybody know what I'm talking about in the chat? I would be interested, if anybody knew, but
Mm.
um, I forgot already.
Did you see what I think I posted something about the new book about Lewis Carroll and possible occult references?
Which one was it called?
I don't really I have to look up the title. It's a new book by Lewis Carroll, and
Lewis Carroll.
particularly through the Looking Glass, the second part of Alice. Alice's Adventure in Wonderland through the Looking Glass,
Yeah.
and commenting about some of the strange things that don't seem to be part of it, like the Jabberwocky poem. And then the person who's an academic, of course, dismisses the idea that Lewis Carroll could possibly have been involved in the occult, which,
Yeah.
I think probably was, just like
Probably.
so many of those people were. And
Absolutely.
I'm really fascinated by this. I want to take a look at that.
Yeah. No. Now I'm interested. I wrote it down.
Mhm.
So what do you think about us maybe opening the chat up and having
Sure.
people ask a few questions? Is that okay? So if you guys want to ask, some questions, just please put them in all caps, and if I could ask my mods to sort of keep an eye and help us out, but we can maybe have have you guys an opportunity to ask some questions. we can still talk, and just see what kind of.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So my chat isn't I don't see any questions right now.
Okay. Well, no one has questions.
Yeah, they will. It'll load up. In the meantime, I've really been enjoying your what are they called, the group that you do, the lectures you've been doing. What is the name of the
Morbid anatomy.
Morbid Anatomy?
Yeah.
And actually Mary Greer has an event
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
and I'm
excited.
excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
Yeah,
It's gonna be great because it's on the secret societies and tarot. And Mary's like the best person in the world to talk about that. I'm really excited.
yeah,
She,
yeah.
she not only, not only studied that, she's been involved in that kind of work herself, and she wrote the Woman of the Golden Dawn book, and she's a great, brilliant tarotist. So I'm really excited about that.
Okay, so Mendy asks, did hearing the narrator read the book make you hear anything differently from your writing that you felt
Mm,
writing it?
Okay, so my answer is partly that it's a little bit early because I just got it. I don't like downloading stuff, and so I got an MP3 disc version. I only heard a little beginning of it, yeah, but I think it will. I think it's going to be like opening stuff up to me that I was not particularly thinking of when I reread it. I suspect that it will.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly yet, but
Yeah, it is a different experience, but I think maybe because I've read the book before, you know what I mean? I sort of know um sort of what to expect. So maybe it's not so different, but I do like the convenience of it. It's very
yeah.
nice.
But I wanted to say something about it. That if you get that, um, they will send you a PDF of the illustrations, so that they know that you don't have to figure out you have to have a book with you. When she talks about the magician, you're gonna have the image of the magician in front of you. So that's really good.
Yeah. So we have Emily's Tarot Magic is asking, what's the card or the cards that make you feel that most resonates with you as a person?
There's a several. The Fool for sure, very much so. Strength. Um, the Hanged Man, very, very deeply. And I was very struck when I discovered that most people don't like the Hanged Man. They think it's being stuck, it's painful, it's a sacrifice. Now they take the old Italian meaning of traitor. To me, it's the absolute core of the deck. It's just, that
Me too.
sense of connecting yourself to something so deep that you are turned upside down and you're enlightened by it, and it lights up your face. And so that's in some ways the card I most connect to.
Did I ever show you my painting? I got a painting from an artist named Ben Gross. I'm going to take it off the wall because it's right here. But this is from. He's actually one of
Oh,
my
it's
favorite
wonderful. I
tarot
love,
artists. His name
yeah,
is Ben Gross. He's an
beautiful.
English-born French artist. This is actually a painting.
Yeah,
The
it's wonderful.
yeah, the texture of it just feels so beautiful because it's almost like a mosaic.
Hmm.
But this is like one of my very favorite
It's
paintings
gorgeous.
from.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I loved it. It actually came to me broken. That in the When I ordered the deck or the piece of art, it came in a glass frame and it was broken in shatters.
Wow.
But thank God the
The print
painting
was okay.
itself was
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
That's terrific. Wow.
So, looking back at the book now, or listening back in audio form, are there any cards / entries you completely see different now?
Well, I did revise it in 1987, was 97, I guess it was 1997. So I did have a chance to change certain things. The card that in some ways needed the most change was the moon, perhaps, because I was following out of the occult traditions, we see the moon very negatively. And it was before, so 1980 was just around the start of the goddess movement and the witchcraft movement, reclaiming the moon as a powerful positive energy. Because in the occult tradition, the moon was very negative. Um, it's dangerous female qualities,
Yeah.
intuition, imagination, not good rational knowledge like in the sun card. So
Yeah.
I had to change that. I changed that quite a bit, but I didn't want to change it totally. I didn't want to just abandon what I wrote, so I just revised and added stuff. So I'm sure there are more cards like that, but at the moment that's the one that comes to mind as that I needed to do things very differently.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and a lot of people talk about how, the meanings of the cards have changed over the years. And particularly, I'm thinking of Vincent Battisti. He actually, in his last book, he wrote sort of, I think he did like the definitions, quote unquote definitions. I don't really like that term, but that's what he calls them. The definitions from 1960, 70, and 80, like all
Oh,
separately,
okay.
which was very interesting.
Well, in one of my books, I borrowed, I got permission to do this from Paul Houston. I think it's called Magical Origins of the Tarot.
Oh,
And he,
love
for
that.
each card at the end, he gives a list of historical meanings. I let's see, he either ends at wait or just shortly after, so it's pretty early stuff, you know. And I found that really fascinating. You might have had Eden Gray, or I put in Eden Gray, I think in my. So I did that. That was really fascinating to see how it's different from what has been developed since then.
Yeah,
Like the death card is my great example. So the death card, everyone gives complex meanings for what it's about. Primarily, though, is to say, no, no, no one's dying. Don't be scared. Not gonna, no one's. It's just changed. So on. Those things we say about the death card, and then in that list from Paul, all the meanings are, it's person and being. It's just death, 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 death.
yeah.
That
I
was
like.
absolutely death. It was,
Yeah, I
none
like
of this
him.
like death of the ego, none of this letting go. It's just someone's gonna die. But
Yeah, he seems to draw on Italo a lot, or Itea.
yeah,
He that's his go to, at least for his book, or his deck, which I love. Dame Fortune's Wheel Tarot. I
yeah.
love his deck. It's such a great deck.
So
You
I had
know.
that the other day. I was so happy to see. I hadn't looked at it in quite a while. It's nice. Yeah.
So we have Roger Rudell, and he wants to know: are there other areas of learning or spiritual practice that you've explored that seem to open up to other aspects of the tarot that led to new discoveries for you?
Well, the answer is everyone. I mean, when I find some learning traditions, new spiritual tradition, I immediately start seeing connections to the tarot because the tarot is my spiritual tradition to a large extent. And by that, I don't not mean particularly. I mean, the occult teachings of the tarot, of course, are very significant to me, and a fair number of references to Tree of Life and things like that. But what I mean, the occult is my spiritual practice. I mean, the tarot. It's the cards themselves and what they open up for me. So pretty much always when I see other things, at some level, I connect them to the tarot. I see, oh yeah, that's like this card, something like that. The other way around too is like, if I find something that interests me, the tarot will help me go into it.
Yeah,
You know, and other things too is so I've become much more interested in Jewish things, and so Jewish practice will also inform the tarot for me, and vice versa again. So it's always a back and forth energy between spiritual traditions and the tarot for me.
definitely. We'll ask a few questions, and we're getting close to the hour, so I just want to get a few questions here. So let's see. I just had one. I lost it. See, the chat is just moving, so it's a little bit
Okay.
hectic here. But so we have Robin here. If I missed any questions, if my mods can just
Okay.
point it out to me, let me know. So, of all your books, which one do you feel happiest with?
That's a wonderful question. Yeah. Well, certainly 70 Degrees of Wisdom is very high there on the list. So was the later book, Tarot Wisdom, published quite some years later, and which I sometimes describe as everything I've learned in the 30 years since 78 Degrees of Wisdom.
I
I
agree.
love the complexity of tarot wisdom and some of the references, like in the Hanged Man, references to realizing that the Hanged Man is about being born. Thank you. We're all born upside down, coming out of our mother's head first. Um, Gabon pygmy traditions and all kinds of stuff I did not know about beforehand.
Yes,
So there's that book. Um, in many ways, Forest of Souls is my favorite because
I
it's
love that book.
exploring possibilities of the tarot. And so hopefully I'm not jumping the gun and giving this little exciting release that it looks like there's going to be a new edition of Forest of Souls.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Its original title, which I had, called A Walk Through the Forest of Souls. I won't go into why that's the correct title and what that title comes from. So there'll be some revisions, there'll be some new material. So that was a book about basically wisdom reading, how to ask the tarot questions that are not necessarily personal, like what is the soul, how does the tarot work, things like that. So that's always been very close to me.
So Kristen Louise has a question. I'm just trying to find it here. Sorry, Kristen Louise, I'm looking. Okay, here it is. Sorry
Mhm.
about that. Okay, so how do you want to be remembered? What
Wow,
legacy or influence do you hope to leave? What a good question that
yeah,
is,
what a good
Kristen
question.
Louise.
You know, what I think of is my writing, my books. That's I would hope, in my vain moments, that my books will live on for quite some time, and hopefully the fiction will have some prominence too, and it won't be remembered. I would be thrilled to be remembered for the tarot, but hopefully also some of my fiction, would be meaningful to me. Um, yeah, and so I wouldn't go past beyond that, but obviously, the idea of having influenced people, and Mary Greer gave me this great honor one time. She did a timeline of tarot. This is her first one. Later on, she did a much more elaborate one. But it was like, from the earliest days and the very highlights of the tarot's development over the centuries. And she ended it with 1980 and the publication of 78 Degrees of Wisdom. Because she said that was the beginning of modern tarot, which I thought was such a thrilling thing to say. So I'd like to be remembered for the influence, for how it did something different, how it opened up the tarot in a different way that people had not thought of before.
No, I definitely agree with that. I had myself muted because, of course, the train went by. I love this little mute button. It's perfect though for that reason because I live close by to a train. So
Wow. Mhm.
I wanted to ask a question also. This was sort of in my thing, and it was the question I was trying to think of. But is there a question that you never get asked that you sort of like wonder, like, like I'm not sure, like whether it's about 78 degrees of wisdom
Hmm.
or otherwise, but like, is there a question that you would like to answer, like you want to be asked that people never ask you?
Let me think about that for a second. It's interesting.
Take your time. Take your
Yeah,
time. And you don't even have. We can look at other questions and.
I think what comes to mind perhaps is, do you feel that you write this book or others, something is writing it through you? Are you like a medium? You know, if, yeah, something that, are you a medium for, you know, of teaching from other dimensions?
Yeah,
And so, my answer would be it's more complicated than that. It's a symbiotic thing.
definitely.
I'm not simply a channel and just writing down what's told to me. I'm not, and I have great respect for people who do that. Some amazing things happen that way. I actually was kind of privy a little bit to someone doing that. I don't know if you've ever seen the books of Paul Selig. He was my boss when I was teaching writing at a
Okay.
graduate college, and but he's also a medium, and he'd written some plays, some really good plays. He's done some readings of his plays. I love them. But then he started channeling this material, and so this was wonderful to watch because, and I saw a tiny bit of it, but I knew two other people who I knew. They would be part of the sessions, so I knew exactly what was happening. You know, and it was totally spontaneous. He would just, um, so I don't know if it'd be a question, but something, and he would just like whisper, and then he would say it out loud. And the whispering was them telling him something. My point was that I knew it was totally genuine. There was no question of anything, and yet it's also his voice is there too, and the same with other people too. So that's a very fascinating process. It really gives me a great deal. But what I do is, it's like, I feel like energy things come from me, and it's my job to then do something with it.
Yes,
Every writer, every performer, every artist knows this. They always say, when the work is going well, it's not me doing it, it's something coming through me. And and I feel like that's all the time. At the same time, it's I have to be present and really work it. What's coming through me, it's not word for word. It's ideas. It's things that are important that matter. It's exciting stuff. But yeah, it's my job to then shape it and to get it out there.
Absolutely. I think that's amazing. There's actually a lot of I've seen a lot of books that have been written like in the voice of Hermes and stuff that I
Mm,
found interesting, which
yeah,
is
that's fun. Yeah,
which I but I suspect that happens a lot, to people.
yeah, yeah.
It's very, very interesting. So Jilly had a question. I was just looking. I think I remember. Jilly wants. She said you're such a vibrant person. She wants to know what you have planned next for us.
Oh my gosh, I always got so much going on. So I'm doing two more, large online presentations. The thing I most recently, the gods and goddesses of the tarot. I'm doing a version for that for a different group. Unfortunately, the name escapes me of this group. It'll be slightly different than the one I did for morbid anatomy. Then I'm doing another morbid anatomy class coming up. We're not entirely sure what. Just going to focus on questions. Um, how do we frame questions? What questions work? And the questions from people in the chat and so forth. So those things are going on. I'm looking forward to resuming live teaching. Hopefully, Omega is hopefully going to open last week of July, and Mary Greer and I will be there, unless there are setbacks, but we're expecting to be there. Um, so a lot of things like that. And then in writing, I have more things than I have time to do, and always
I
more
bet.
ideas than I can do. And so the main thing is I'm finishing a novella, which is based. It's inspired by a fountain pen, by a gold fountain pen, and I'm trying to finish that book. It's complicated, so there's that. I'm doing a four-part comic or graphic novel with another writer, and that's been going great. Um, I'm doing my autobiography, which is very very exciting to do, and and I'm signed up to do the little books for two new decks.
Well,
The same kind of thing I did with the Crystal Skull Tarot and with the Brady Tarot, and more recently the Leonora Carrington deck. That was just an essay.
yes.
So now I'm going to be doing. There's a deck of Greek goddesses by the wonderful Ellen Lorenzi Prince. So I'm going to be doing that with her.
That's
And
wonderful.
yeah,
I would love to see
yeah.
that.
And then Emmy Brady is doing a new deck, which is so exciting.
Oh, I
And
love the Brady Tarot.
it's going to be European nature and mythology,
Okay.
more mythology than the American deck. And so I'm going to do that again with her. So on both of those, I'm so excited to be doing that. Two of my favorite deck creators.
Was one of those decks the Beauty of Horror? Was that um
That's another one I did recently. Yeah, yeah.
is that complete now or
It is. They never sent me a copy, which is a little shocking.
yeah, I've had it in pre-order, but it hasn't I have
It
never
should be.
received it. I just wonder.
Maybe it's not actually been printed. I don't know. That
Yeah.
was loads of fun. I had fun doing that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it was interesting. I wasn't really familiar with it, but
Yeah,
and I love the idea of like graphic novels, kind of coloring books, and
yeah, yeah,
tarot.
yeah.
So, and I know, I think, I heard a rumor about you and Robert and Place doing a graphic novel or something
Yeah.
like that. Is that
We have a, we have part of what we've shown it around to a few publishers, and at the moment
excellent?
it's not happening yet. But yeah, and
That would be lovely.
I'm hoping that Bob can do a project with me, which is taking one of my short stories that's very much about tarot and readings and
Yeah,
you know and, and, and divination and things like that, and you have to do like a deluxe edition of it
yeah,
with several illustrations by him. And you know, Robert does these beautiful layouts of books. They're just spectacular what he does.
yeah,
I mean, the book for the Burning Serpent Oracle or Luna Monzak is gorgeously done. The book he did for the Raziel deck is beautifully done. I would love to have, one of my fiction books done that way. I think it would be great. You know,
yeah.
so
That
a lot
would
of
be.
projects, wonderful things going on. Way, way too much for time to do it.
I know, but that's good. It's good to be busy, especially this day and age.
Yeah,
With
I know.
COVID and everything, it's really a
Yeah,
blessing
so when
to
you
be
don't sleep
busy.
at night, it's also good to sleep sometimes.
Is there anything you want to talk about as far as anything we didn't, as announcements or anything like that? We mentioned the Morbid Anatomy, which is coming up, which I
Yeah.
will of course sign up for.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, yeah, I know. I will be posting on my Facebook page sometime soon.
Good.
The thing that was going to be, I can't remember the names. Yeah, done I haven't done something before, so it's new for me. The that listing of when that will be, and so people can.
Okay, you could let me know, and I'll put that in the show notes.
And,
Whatever that is.
yeah, and also there will be an electronic version, an online text version of 70 Degrees of Wisdom.
You know.
That's exciting. That's going to be happening sometime next, months or so. And let me think of one or two other things. Well, nothing is jumping to my mind. Oh,
Okay.
by the way, books I did. I did. I don't know if I mentioned. I did the Crystal Skull, Jessie Driscoll's deck,
Oh yeah.
and
Uh,
that was really exciting to do. And she does some stuff that's just amazing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it looks like simple because she just basically kind of stages the rider deck using crystal skulls, stones, and little bits of like twigs and wool.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff she does is incredible.
Yeah, I was happy to see her in her element yesterday. That's what I said. It
Yeah,
was like, it's
yeah.
because I talk to Jessie all the time. She's a friend of mine.
Oh, good.
But it's like when you see someone in their element, what they're good at and what they know, it's like they have a certain like passion about them that it was very like fun to watch. And
Yeah,
Chris too.
I'd like to recommend actually that people, uh, because you have to just Google Crystal Skull Tarot Jessie Driscoll and get it up, and think about ordering it. She has quite a few left, and
Good.
it's just a terrific deck. And I felt this was really worthwhile things to say in that my book about that. They were not just sort of capsule versions of the writer deck. Not all. There's some.
Yeah, I enjoyed the book and I enjoyed the deck. I thought the deck was it was a very innovative kind of idea because it's a photographic deck. It's being creative with coming up with the tarot symbolism, and
Mm,
I thought it was also very useful, sort of if you're studying the Rider Waite Smith, and you kind of want to learn the symbols. They're all right there in the crystals. So it was a very cool deck for me. I actually backed it on Kickstarter, and I
oh,
enjoy it, and I use it from time to time. So
good. Yeah, yeah.
I highly recommend it. I will put Jesse's Etsy shop down in the show notes as
Good.
well,
Yeah,
in
terrific.
case anybody wants to buy a copy of that.
Yeah,
It would be
good.
great.
Thank you.
So, but Rachel, we've been on for over an hour. That hour flew by. I
Yeah,
appreciate your
good.
time and coming on here again. And
Thank you so much.
you are always welcome on my channel whenever you want.
Thank you.
So
Absolutely. Yeah.
so you just let me know, and you can come
Okay.
on whenever you like. But thank you so much, and thank you to everybody. I'm sorry if there were any questions that I missed. We'll have to get them next time. But I appreciate you guys, and until next time, love and peace, everybody. Rachel, hang around
Okay.
just
Bye, everyone.
just a minute. Bye bye.
Okay.